Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Champions of Inspiration. I think you're going to get some great content from this one today. I got a new fast friend. He's been in the real estate industry for quite some time. In fact, he and his team have sold or bought over 7,000 homes, basically, virtually.
Yeah.
Just think of that. So results or REI results founder, Bryce McKinley, welcome to Champions of Inspiration.
Let's go, Scott. I'm excited. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So, wow, what a track record. I got to tell you, I know a little bit about real estate, but not near enough. How the heck do you do something like sell or buy 7,000 homes virtually? How does that happen?
Through a series of unfortunate events, my friend. You get really hungry, as our mutual friend, I'm sure Les Brown would say, you got to be hungry, right? I was hungry. And when you're starving and you're hungry, you just have this uncanny desire and drive to just keep going and keep going and keep going. Yeah, I've been super blessed, Scott, and blessed with not only the gift of gab, but the ability to help people get what they want or out of situations that they don't want. And that's the way I look at it. I look at real estate as a huge opportunity to solve a problem.
Well, and so that's great. We'll get back into real estate here in just a little bit, but you and I were talking the other day, and you shared some things with me, and again, I only want you to share what you're willing to share with our audience. But you shared the fact that you've had some tough times, and those tough times have actually probably helped hone your expertise and hone that hunger. So share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to share my story, but for those of you watching and or listening, I would ask that this story is not about me. Sure, it's my story, but it's about you. And so if you're listening to me and you're in the sound of my voice, right, the Champions of Inspiration, you're here to be inspired. So I want you to find that spot in my story that you can relate to and then ride it out the rest of the way. Scott, I'll tell you, I got into real estate from the back seat of my car after being homeless for a little over a year and a half. I had lost everything, but it really doesn't even start there. It starts back when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing the wrong thing in the eyes of society. I got myself into some trouble. And by the grace of God, criminal charges dismissed and or acquitted. I had a second shot at life. And I'll never forget, my uncle grabbed me by the ear and he's like, "You're coming with me." And here I am, this 17-year-old kid packing my bags to move to Iowa to learn I'm going to be detailing cars at a car dealership in Iowa, And I don't know if you've ever been to Iowa, but there's not much there. There's not much there. So
I actually went to school at the University of Iowa, so I understand it well.
Yeah, I've been to U of I a few times. You guys know how to party. No,
well, that we do.
That we do. And you've got a great football team, right?
Go Hawks.
So
that's right.
Yeah. I didn't know that about you. Thank you for sharing that. My friend Kaylee would be so proud right now.
That's awesome.
I didn't go there, but I've attended probably more Friday evening meetings than just as many as the students have, if you know what I mean. So I was in Davenport, Iowa. So, 45 minutes to an hour from U of I, right down the road. And here I am detailing cars over and over and over for this Ford dealership and begging my uncle for an opportunity. And one day he came to me in the wash bay and he's like, "You sick of this yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Your time is coming." What I didn't realize was in a couple of days, we were due for a snowstorm. He knew it. I hadn't paid attention. And that's exactly what happened. We had a blizzard come in. It was the middle of December. Nobody showed up to the dealership except for he and I and the lady in the back office that we gave a ride to. And we're just sitting around twiddling our thumbs. And he told me, he goes, Bryce, if you can sell a car today, I'll put you on the team next week. My birthday was the following week, Christmas Eve, if anybody wants to send me anything. And that's what I did, Scott. I went to work. I pulled out the phone book, the service records, and I just started calling people. And by the end of the day, I had 2 trucks and an SUV sold, and I had made more legitimate money than I had ever seen in less than a week. And I was excited. And so, what did I do? I knew how to work. I knew how to help people get what they wanted. In those days, I looked at it a little differently. I knew how to sell, right? So first lesson, if you're writing things down, please do learn how to sell. And so, gosh, I'll never forget. I was 22 years old now. Fast forward a couple of years, we got a phone call from Ford Motor Company, had a rep come out and meet my uncle and I ended up getting recruited out of my dealership as I had been considered one of the #1 salespersons in the world with Ford Motor Company at one of their smallest dealerships, which is just unheard
Impressive.
of. Yeah.
It's impressive.
Definitely blessed. The next part of my story is really just a cool journey because now I've got the world by the you-know-what. I'm making great money, Scott. My wife and I had known each other all of our lives. Her mom had been my Sunday school teacher growing up. However, we had kind of this open relationship, and she had a baby with someone else and ended up losing the baby due to a medical negligent homicide. And man, that's when stuff started really taking a turn for the worse. All I knew how to do was work. I had made millions of dollars as a young 20-something professional, and I just kept working. I wasn't a great husband. I wasn't a great dad to the daughter that I had when I was a young teen doing dumb stuff, but I knew how to work. And I got a phone call Friday, June 13th. I'll never forget. Driving home, I was excited. I hadn't seen my wife in a couple of weeks. I'd been on the road, and she had been battling alcohol due to depression from losing the boy. And I got a phone call. I was coming back from Clinton, Iowa, coming down 61 there into Davenport, if you know that route.
I do.
And I'd just been on the road for a few weeks, and I was excited. We were going to start over. She was sobering up, all the stuff. And Friday, June 13th, 2008, I got a call that she had taken her life and she had passed.
Wow.
And I still get emotional thinking about it. Like, I was devastated because that's what I was working for. I was working for what we were building together. And I got mad at the world and I just started giving up. I started throwing in the towel. I remember going to a local neighborhood bar and drank myself to sleep that night and just spiraling out of control. I had a cabin up in Wisconsin, went up north and fished for hours on end, drugs and alcohol, doing all the dumb things that you do when you think that you're having fun and trying to suppress stuff. And then March of 2010. So this is, almost 2 years later, I got a phone call from a gal that I had been messing around with, Scott. And she said, we were pregnant. What do you mean we? I don't even know you. I don't know who you are. I've hung out with you a few times. We party well together. And sure enough, she was, and I sobered up. So March 17th, 2010 is my sobriety date. I sobered up. I started getting my butt together, and we had our son in November of 2010. That little guy changed my life. Shout out to the middle school millionaire. Go search him. He's got a pretty cool little following online.
That's awesome.
And he saved my life. I didn't realize at the time that would be enough though. It just wouldn't. Having him and having that as like this goal, right? This why, as a lot of us coaches talk about, which I don't agree with. I think you need to find a purpose before you find a why, because a why can die. A why can go away. But if you've got purpose, you can really pour into it. And when you do, and you're intentional and you're not just reactionary, you can accomplish and be more. I didn't realize that at the time. And so I just went back to work, Scott. I got a couple of contracts with Nissan and Toyota and Honda, Tyco Corporation. Like, this is going to be great. I'm living the dream. Tyco brought me down to Texas, and Texas broke the relationship that I had with his mom. You see, while I had sobered up, she hadn't. And I remember coming home from the office. It was a ADT office. Tyco owns ADT, and I had a contract with them. I came home from the office one day early on a Friday. Don't remember what we were doing, but I came home early and she had passed out, OD'd, pills everywhere. And there's my little baby boy on the floor. You can imagine like what went through my head.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, oh my gosh, you know? And so what does every good gangster do, you know? And I'm bringing up the old past, right? I've been through this before. What do? I got to cover my butt. So I pick up my boy, I run in the bedroom, I pack a bag, and then it clicks. I'm going to put him back down and I'm going to take pictures. And we would go and stay at a hotel. And Monday morning, I would start the fight of my life. And I ended up getting sole custody of my son while losing all the contracts I had, the last couple $100,000 that I had in the bank. And now I'm sleeping in my car, but I've got sole custody of this little young man. And over the next 9 to 12 months, I would sleep in my car, scrounge for food, couldn't get any assistance because I had made way too much money a year prior, you know, and I'm a male with a child, so you can't stay in shelters. And I didn't know anybody. I'm in Texas, right? All my family is up north. What am I going to do? Too embarrassed to talk to the few friends that I had made through the contract that had brought me down. And I remember having a conversation September 28, 2011 with my brother, and we were going to start something. Didn't know what it was. We were going to start something. We had all kinds of great ideas. And as the entrepreneur in me, I knew that one of them had to stick, right?
Yeah, something had to work.
Exactly. If you throw a whole bunch of mud at the wall, something's going to stick. That was my thought. So here I am on cloud 9. I put my boy to sleep. He's in the back seat. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. And in this moment, like, what am I doing? I wrote a letter to my mom because I used to journal. I wrote a letter to my mom. I wrote a letter to my son. I ripped it out and put it on the dash. I pulled my car out of where we had been sleeping, which was behind a water tower in North Texas here, in the kind of in the woods behind this water tower. Pulled my car out into the middle of the street, pulled back the slide and cocked the 40 cal that I had as security in my car. Same 40 cal that sits next to my bed tonight. Hasn't jammed since, never jammed before, but that night it jammed in my mouth 3 times. And I got mad. I got so mad. I'm like, show up. I'm screaming at God, like, do something. Not realizing the miracle right in front of me that had just happened. I was
That he
so
just jammed
frustrated.
the gun 3 times.
Right. And arguing with God, I fell into this sleep. And I'm like, if you're half of what they are, what they say you are, show up. If you're anything that you say you are, show up. And if you do, I will. I don't know about you, Scott, but I learned real quick. Let's not play with God and give him ultimatums, because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, I learned through my near-death experience. I'm allergic to lightning. So I got you.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, I remember you sharing that with me. And that next morning, I get woke up, wouldn't you know, from a phone call from Wells Fargo. Apparently, there had been some fraudulent activity on my account. First thing that goes through my head, what now? You know, there's no money in there. I've got $32 in my pocket that I've been stretching for weeks. well, sir, you need to go into the local branch and verify where are you located. I'm like, I'm driving, you know, I was in my car. I'm like, I'm driving. I'm at this intersection. Well, there's one right over here. And I remember the look on the gentleman's face when I come in. I probably smelled, who knows. I walk into the bank and he's like, sir, are you okay? I said, I hope so. And I explained the situation. He had me sit down and he turned the screen around so I could verify these transactions. And wouldn't you know it, I had an old client wire me $20,000 that previous day.
Wow.
I'm like, really? Is that happening right now? And so I'm like, okay, well, we're doing this. We're doing this now. So let's do this. Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Well, I need food. What do we do? How do we celebrate? Anybody that's got any past like mine, we celebrate with tacos, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're in Texas, so you go to the best taco place that's real cheap, Taco Bueno. You pull in the Taco Bueno. And I remember sitting there for almost 2 hours, not knowing what was my next move. Do I get a hotel? Do I go look for an apartment? Like, just gears are going. And I get a phone call from McKinley Orchid Apartments. Mr. McKinley, we found an application here and we've got a 1-bedroom apartment that opens up. It'll be available for you on Monday. We still need to clean it. I said, you know, you don't need to clean it. I'll clean it if we can move in tonight. I'm actually looking for a place right now as we speak to get out of the situation that I'm in. And I moved in that day. No rent deposit, first month's rent. They had this promo going on. So I had a roof over my head, tacos in my belly, and money in the bank. This is going to be great. Right? I'm like, all right, bro, I'm in. I call God bro. He's kind of gangster to me, right? I'm like, I'm in. Like, this is cool. What do I got to do? Well, a week goes by, you don't hear anything. So you start putting in job applications, and then another week goes by and you don't hear anything. So now you're putting in more applications and you're online at the library studying like what you could do. I'm talking to my brother about starting this business. I don't know about you, but if you've ever looked at starting your own business from home or any of those things, like you get hit with every Tom, Dick, and Harry's ad on the market. And that's what started happening to me. Every time I logged into my email, I kept seeing these ads in my email that would pop up. And then I clicked on one. And I watched the video. And then I went to YouTube because I wasn't buying anything. I went to YouTube and I started searching real estate investing with other people's money, and went down this rabbit hole 3 videos deep. And then it clicked. People need to sell their homes in tough situations and or distressed properties. And there's buyers that buy them for a little cheap. If I can facilitate this transaction, I can make some money in the middle. Scott, what do I know how to do? I went to work. Sometimes in order to get results, you have to take some simple action. In order to have the confidence that comes behind the results, you take action. So I knew if I took action, eventually I would get results, which in turn would lead to the confidence. And that's what I did. I had a very simple 7 and 5-step process I had used for the previous 20 years in Fortune 500 companies in corporate America. Let's do it. Calling homeowners, just like at the car dealership. Boom, boom. And wouldn't you know, that first month, I contracted 23 houses, Scott.
Wow.
I didn't know what the heck I was doing, though. No idea what I was doing.
You were doing it well. That's amazing.
Yeah. I ended up closing, I think we ended up closing like five or seven of those deals. So not all of them closed. I didn't do all the deals. I just contracted them and ended up having to terminate them by way of working with the title companies and the people that I had networked with that were ended up buying them from me. You know, I made a couple $100,000 my first 30 to 45 days in the business. I'm like, I can do this. You know, got a tune up on the car. Now I'm driving around. I went to 3 or 4 properties. I started understanding what I was looking for, started making more phone calls, started going out into social media, making Facebook and Craigslist posts. And next thing you know, I realized I don't know what I don't know. This back end selling these deals, I don't understand that. And so I partnered with a local company here in Dallas, and they were actually looking for salespeople. And I'm like, I don't want to work for you. I want to work with you. They weren't too happy about that. And ended up 2 weeks later, a week later, calling me and said, if you can do what you did your first month, we'll talk about a partnership.
Nice.
Let's go. 37 contracts later, they and I partnered up. We closed 35 of those 37 houses, and the rest is history. Now we've closed as a team over 10,000 transactions. Got a coaching program now that I teach people how to do this. And I'm hanging out in board shorts and hoodies because my house is too cold in Texas. It's a great problem to have.
Especially when it's only 95 degrees here today, because it's cooled off some.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, totally get it. Just an amazing story. When you know, you and I first met and you shared the story with me. I mean, that's what Champions of Inspiration is all about. It's how do we share the stories, either the untold or undertold stories, to encourage other people to understand, no matter where you are in life. Number one, the possibilities to get better exist. And many times it comes down to switching out of fear and switching into faith, and truly understand that God, the world, everything is conspiring for your good when you take and you dial your head in a little bit. I mean, I think many people can share incidents of not being on the right path. And part of that is learning. Part of that is the lessons you learn from it. And part of it is getting hungry. Right, is getting hungry and turning around the other way. So you've developed with REI Results and the REI Results Academy, you've developed basically a system that you now share and can share from a coaching standpoint to help people be able to accomplish similar success, correct?
Absolutely. We've had, over the last 5 years since starting our mentoring program, we've had a little over 10,000 students come through our doors, with over 1,200 actually coming into our inner circle. And we've got 100% success rate in our inner circle. Those that go in deep with us, trust the process, and 100% success rate. I measure that. You know, people are always like, well, how do you measure success? Well, it's a 200x return on the investment. So if you give me $10,000, I'm going to show you how to make 20. And that's how I've measured success in the academy. And so with that measure, we've had 100% success rate. I kind of want to go back to what you said though, Scott, about happiness, because it made me think, actually, while I was listening to you, somebody might be listening right now and it was like, I'm a good person. Like, I'm going through it. I'm a good person. You were bad when you were a kid and a dumb young adult. You deserve it. I've never done anything wrong. Somebody's thinking that. And I just want to encourage that person, you know, now that I've live off of 10% of my income and give 90% of it away, I would consider myself a quote unquote good person. But God never said it was going to be easy. And that was a tough lesson that I had to learn. We sit here and look at God as if he's this like inferior being that's just waiting to slap us down when we make mistakes. In reality, when we're making mistakes, he kind of takes his hand off and just says, go ahead. I'm here when you're ready. And so for that person that's listening, that maybe you are a great person and you're going through it, I want to encourage you, in between two mountaintops, there's always a valley that you have to go through. I mean, heck, I'm going through some right now in in one of my businesses. I'm going through a dissolution and I've been taken advantage of, and you know, my business partner's stolen millions of dollars. And I'm like, why? But I'm happy. You know, my wife asked me a couple of weeks ago, and I keep bringing this up on other shows. It's like, how can you stay so happy? I've been through worse, but I serve an amazing God. And I know that he's never failed, and he'll be there to pick me up when I reach out. And that's what I keep doing. I keep reaching out. I stay hungry for the word. I stay hungry for his presence. And that right there has been the game changer for me.
Totally agree. Again, as you and I shared a little bit, I've lived through a near-death experience where I was told repeatedly, you shouldn't be alive, to the point where it frustrated me so much. I said, sorry to disappoint you. I've always been an overachiever. I lived, you know,
Right.
And I believe too, I was saved for a purpose. I was saved to do this show, to share messages of hope and inspiration, to encourage others to do the same, to build a global community full of people with respect, honor, and dignity for all. We don't have to agree with each other. We should respect each other. You know, we've been 2 commandments: love God, love thy neighbor. You know, I mean, it's the rest of 10, 2 commandments, 8 suggestions. You know, I mean, it's you know, those 2. So I agree with you from that side. And I know that we haven't talked a ton of real estate here, because quite frankly, your system is so compact and so great that that gets done through the academy. So I would encourage those who have heard the story and are looking for a possibility, you know, explore it. Again, whether it's right for you or not, you may or may not know at this point. But for me, I don't teach anything I don't do myself, or I haven't lived through myself. That's what my book, That Sucks, What Now, is all about. It relates the lessons learned, the solutions developed by going through the challenges in life. It's not that we're going to be without challenges. That's Pollyanna. That doesn't happen.
Right.
It's what do we do when those challenges come upon us? And sometimes it takes a little deeper challenge for some. You know, you get the tap on the shoulder, and then you get the 2x4 across the head, right? Might have had one of those myself. So I get it. I honor you for it. I thank you for sharing it with the audience. How do people get a hold of you so they can learn from your genius and learn from what you've learned from?
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. You know, it's interesting. We actually, I believe that old saying that more is caught than taught. You know, I've actually shared my entire process already, and most people probably just overlooked it, right? There's sellers in bad situations. There's buyers that have money, and you connect them. So, I mean, that's really the whole process. You put marketing out to the sellers that are in tough situations. Leads will come in. You have a conversation that leads to a contract, and then you market that contract over to a buyer. Buyer leads will come in. You have a secondary conversation that leads to a contract, and you get paid the difference between the 2 contracts. Boom. That's my entire process. That is all 7 steps that I teach inside my academy. It is literally that simple. Sure, there's micro processes, but if you want to go in deeper, you can grab my book, the number 5 hourflip.com. It's 68 pages. I think it's triple typed because it's not that complicated. It's not a very big book, and it's an ebook. It's $7. You can go to the number 5 hourflip.com, 5hourflip.com. And you can search my name, Bryce McKinley, on any social media. You'll find me. You can't miss me.
Awesome, Bryce. Thanks for being here today on Champions of Inspiration. Thanks for sharing your story, and look forward to hearing about how many of our audience members reach out to you and say, you know what, I still want to learn more from you.
Love it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me on.
Thank you for being here. And all of you, thank you for joining us here on Champions of Inspiration. We'll see you again next time. God bless.